All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for your time and your participation today. We are super excited to introduce you to Brand Say. And before we start off, I'd like to share some house rules. So, throughout the webinar, please feel free to add your questions in on the message box, and we will make sure to address them towards the end of the webinar. All right, so let's jump in. So, to introduce myself, my name is Michelle. I basically take care of AI Palet's growth across EMEA and APAC markets. I have a decade of experience working with large and mid sized enterprises and enabling them to better position themselves in the marketplace. I'd also like to introduce you to our speaker today, Guha Atria. Guha, handing it to you to give yourself an introduction here.
Are you able to hear me now? All right. Thanks, Michelle. And hello to everyone. Happy to be with all of you today. My name is Guha. I lead product and engineering at AI Palette. For 21 years now, I've been helping CPG businesses use data to make better decisions. Before this, I was chief product officer at Asper, a SaaS subsidiary of Fractal Analytics. Over the years, some of the brands that I've helped in CPG include Miller and Beverages, Mars and Kind and Confectionery, Adidas and Athleisure, Avon and Cosmetics, and potentially some lesser known private brands like Treehouse and Winland Foods. Outside of CPG, I've had the opportunity to help hospitality, e-commerce, and financial services brands like Hilton, Granger, Wells Fargo achieve digital transformation as well. Happy to be with you all today and very excited to share Brand Say with you. Back to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Guha. All right, so now we will be showing you the agenda slide. And here today, I'm excited to walk you through our agenda as well, right? So we're thrilled to have you here for the launch of our latest product, Brand Say. And over the next 30 minutes, we'll dive into everything you need to know, the what, the why, and the how behind this innovative platform. We'll explore the specific needs that it addresses and the gap it fills in for the market. Let's get started. And without further ado, I hand it back to you, Guha.
Thanks again, Michelle. Before we get started on what Brand Say is all about, I want to take a moment to highlight to you the challenges that we saw our customers facing, which prompted us to build the solution. Uh, the current methods, although they have been effective in terms of traditional brand tracking for quite some time, have also had their limitations, right? They tend to be time consuming, they tend to be expensive, and not always effective, right? I say not always because traditional brand tracking has worked very well for a long time and still has a lot of strengths. Having said that, there are two gaps with the quality of insights that you get with traditional ways of tracking of brand tracking, right? First is a gap between claimed and actual behavior, and the second is the lack of representativeness of the population, right? Now, on when it comes to timeliness, it's not really real time with traditional brand tracking, and therefore it does not enable understanding of digital buzz during a campaign and doesn't help you to execute interventions in the middle of a campaign, right? And last but not least is the challenge of cost, which makes traditional methods and running them across categories, brands, markets, time and time again, sometimes cost prohibitive, right? So these were some of the challenges that we heard from our customers, which led us to think of developing a new solution. So introducing Brand Say, a means to triangulate the salience, the affinity, and the advocacy of your brand and understand the full picture of your digital brand equity. Now, AI Palette's vision for creating Brand Say is to channel the power of social media, big data, and AI to help understand what drives interest in your brand and that of your competitors, to give you a complete picture that you can get that you can get when you combine that with traditional tracking. This will help you track disruptive new trends and brands to then diagnose the health of your brand. This product, by the way, is seamlessly integrated into AI Palette's Foresight engine, which enables you to get a complete picture across both category and brand. This was the vision that we went out to achieve. And now let me tell you how that has shaped up. Now, the thing with Brand Say is that digital data can tell us three things about our brands, making consumer behavior a valuable source of insights for looking down the road and seeing what's to come, right? The first thing we learn from digital data is the salience or active consideration of a brand, which serves as a leading indicator of market share, right? Second, it can also help us to understand the affinity that consumers demonstrate towards a brand through the social conversations. And finally, digital data can also serve as an effective measure for a consumer's likelihood to recommend your product. And these are the three dimensions that constitute the what of brand say. Now that you've seen the three dimensions that go into bringing together the digital brand equity, let's talk a little bit about the data that makes this happen, right? Now, the digital data that can help track emerging brands and build a competitive landscape comes from a variety of sources that can broadly be grouped into three buckets. First is the search data from Google and, say, regional engines like Baidu that reflect population level active consideration of brands, their products, offerings, and the questions that consumers have. This becomes a source of truth for understanding consumer awareness and the salience of a brand. That's the first bucket. The second is social signals from a variety of platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, now X, YouTube, and many others, as well as blogs, which provide a means to understand sentiment drivers that put conversations in context and help you understand the affinity to your brand. So that's the second bucket. The third and finally is consumer reviews, which offer insight into what is driving the positive and negative perceptions of your brand, and to then capture the consumer experiences that are shaping the advocacy for your brand, right? So that gives you a sense of the different types of data sources that we've channeled to pull together to create all of these three dimensions that help you understand and track your digital brand equity ahead of time. We will now look at each of these three dimensions in a little bit of depth, starting with salience, right? Now, with salience, the idea is to track brand interest from searches, understand the drivers, and identify the emerging brands, right? The intent of tracking brand interest here is also about the impact of marketing and activations, both for you and your competitor brands. Understanding the drivers happens at different levels, including persona, themes, ingredients, and occasions. Finally, identifying emerging brands helps you to understand new competition and why they are succeeding, right? So that is the entire piece of the salience pillar. Next, let's look at affinity. When it comes to affinity, the focus is on quantifying the social sentiment, understanding what drives it up or down, and establishing comparability with the competition, right? So when I say quantifying, it encompasses current affinity as well as a pattern over time. In order to understand the drivers, we look at the key themes that drive affinity and compare it over time and across competitors. And that gives you the affinity dimension of brand equity. The third and final dimension is the dimension of advocacy, right? The approach for advocacy remains the same, but now you're focusing on reviews, and using that, we quantify advocacy, identify drivers, and establish a pattern over time that can be compared with the competition. This will also help you in identifying themes that are driving sentiment within the category. All right. Now, having understood each of these three dimensions on their own, we start to put them together to create the complete picture of digital brand equity. The whole is definitely greater than the sum of the parts in this case, because it helps to create an accurate representation of digital brand health, one single metric that can also be thought of as your digital brand equity. This one single metric can be viewed across brands, across geographies, tracked over time, and it is supported by actionable insights on what the underlying drivers and themes are, right? Which is what gives you not just a sense of what your digital brand equity is, but also as to how it is changing over time and what you can do about it. Having seen how all of these pieces come together, let's now ask probably the million-dollar question on your mind, which is, what exactly am I going to do with this, right? And to address that, there are broadly three types of questions that can be addressed using Brand Say. First, we focus on opportunity identification. This is where we explore avenues for brand building, including product development, innovation, and customer experience enhancement. Some of the key questions here involve understanding how to create new consumption occasions, deepen the usage, and identify potential purchase triggers or activation ideas. That is the first set of questions that you could answer using the functionalities of Brand Say. Second is you start looking at category and brand dynamics, examining the market context and which brands are leading, right? We will evaluate digital traction for both your brand and the competitors, identify dominant themes in the category, and help you understand which attributes make your brand stand out. This also includes a comparison of how brand interest is driven by certain themes and how that fares against each other. The final third bucket of questions that you can answer using this functionality is brand affinity and advocacy. Here, we assess how well your brand is perceived in terms of preference, favorability, and consumer sentiment. This includes understanding overall brand advocacy score by looking at organic brand advocacy in the digital space, as well as examining the perceptual elements that you're either maintaining or you're building upon, all right? So that is, in summary, a view of digital brand equity, the three elements of it or the three dimensions of it, and how it all comes together to help you answer some of the biggest questions on your mind. Having given you this overview, we will now switch over to provide a demo of this capability so you can actually see how this works in the real world. Give me a moment to trigger the demo and we will restart in a moment. I hope my demo screen is visible for all of you. Great. Now, the brand equity module is aiming to provide an outside-in, unprompted view of what drives interest in brands and competitors by leveraging AI, by leveraging big data, and technology-led approaches to complement traditional tracking, right? Consumer dynamics are evolving very rapidly, and a purely survey-based brand tracking program that relies on claimed behavior won't necessarily give you the full picture. So organizations now need a more real-time view of their brand, the brand health, as well as to be able to monitor the drivers, both at a category and at a competitor level, right? When analyzing the beverage category, in this case, we have selected US beverages. Excuse me. We see a range of brand performance metrics across key areas of equity score, which is the overarching score we talked about, as well as the brand salience, the affinity, and the advocacy. Now, in this case, you can see that the median score for all beverages in the US beverage market for brand equity stands at 72. Now, this gives you a baseline to compare your own brand equity against, right? So if you're above 72, you're in the top half. And if you're below 72, you are in the bottom half, right? Now, brand equity is calculated by combining these factors of brand salience, brand affinity, and brand advocacy. And once this is done, these numbers are normalized to give you the right picture. In this particular set of brands, you can see that Pepsi has the highest digital brand equity score, which is of 90, which is significantly above the median of 72. With a positive increase that it has been seeing, and now we're not comparing Pepsi to anybody else, we're just looking at Pepsi, how it's been doing over time, right? With a positive increase on all three aspects of brand salience, brand affinity, and brand advocacy. Now, brand salience depicts the unaided search which a mass audience makes across the search engines, right? The next column, the second column shows you the brand affinity, which shows the brand love resonating from the social media posts for your respective brands. The last column for brand advocacy, where the mass audience becomes the advocate of the product by sharing reviews and ratings on both retail as well as e-commerce websites. Now, from here, there are two paths that you as a user of this tool can take. One is to drill down into each of these three dimensions of salience, affinity, and advocacy. You can go down that path, or you can choose one brand and deep dive into that brand. That could be your brand or a competing brand, right? And we will now show you both of those journeys. To first better understand each of these three dimensions of salience, affinity, and advocacy, all you have to do is scroll down from this view and you start getting one dimension after another, right? So with search driven salience, you can drill down into the underlying themes that you can see here. With social sentiment and affinity, you can look at how positives and negatives add up to give you a net sentiment. By the way, you can also understand the key themes that are driving the sentiment. Finally, for reviews and advocacy, you can look at the average and net promoter ratings. In this way, you can take one dimension after another and look at them in depth to understand what are the different dimensions doing on your brand equity and what are the underlying drivers of each of those dimensions of salience, affinity, and advocacy. Now, having seen this, you might want to then look at your own brand or a specific competitor's brand in more detail. To do this, let us double click on a brand to understand more details, taking Coca-Cola as an example. Now, coming to the brand deep dive, what you can see here is that this deep dive brand page shows you the overall equity score as well as the individual scores on salience, affinity, and advocacy for this particular brand. We can also look at trend growth for the same three metrics over time. In the brand salience section, we look at the most searched queries for the brand, and this usually is probably one of the most commonly used features within this functionality that we have seen to be able to understand specific keywords people are using. In the affinity section, we can look at word clouds that can help you to understand what exactly are the words that people are using in reference to your brand. And in the advocacy section, you can start seeing ratings as well as reviews for the brand. Of course, you can, in this case, before that, you're also able to see specific verbatims that have contributed to the sentiment and the affinity that you're seeing. And then as you go down, you will be able to see how this has changed over time, what the word cloud tells you, and what the reviews are telling you. So all of this information for your brand comes together on a single page to give you all the information and insights you need to understand what is happening with your brand, what actions you can take, or in the case of your competitor, understand what is helping them and how you might want to match up. Now, we are working on some further enhancements to this already exciting functionality, which will allow users to filter verbatims and e-reviews based on either positive, negative, or neutral sentiment. As you may recall, when we started this demo on the previous page, we saw that Coke scored highest on taste versus competitors. And here you can start seeing that verbatims as well as e-reviews are validating the performance of Coke on taste, with consumers talking about Coke Zero tasting the same as Coke Original, Coke Classic having the perfect blend of sweetness and fizz. All of this can give a brand key insights in terms of the strengths that you want to continue playing on and also the areas that you could potentially improve upon. That is a quick overview of the demo of Brand Say. And we will now open it up for questions. I will hand it back to Michelle, who can share with us through whom the questions will be shared, and we can have a discussion around those.
Thank you, Gua. That was really insightful, and I hope we all had a good understanding on what Brand Say here has. And we would, of course, love questions. Feel free to add them to the message box here. If anything gets beyond time, we would probably have to take it later on, but we will try to do it one at a time. All right. So, with a couple of questions that are coming in right now, I have. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to open the question box here. Yeah. So I have Carol asking us, are the themes or the list of brands customizable as per required?
Oh, sorry, I had a bit of a audio lag there. Yes, I think the question was about the customizability of brands.
Yes. So are
Great.
they customizable? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Carol. Everything in Brand is customizable to your needs. We can create, say, the master set of themes to match your key imagery attributes and motivation spaces as well. We can also deep dive into each of these spaces to better understand more about them in the context of your brand.
Perfect. All right. The next question we have is from Avantika. Can the data be filtered to a specific time range?
Well, yes, absolutely it can. We have detailed time granularity and we have filters available as well. So you can do this on the fly. For example, you could filter on a specific month to understand digital buzz during a specific brand campaign. Yes, absolutely, that's true.
All right. Perfect. Then we have a question from Timothy. How would you ensure this is a represented of the total population when it comes to the brands?
Yeah. So I think what I'd start by saying is we cover over 61 billion data points across markets. And we also collect very geographic specific data, which all of this helps us to ensure that the data is representative. However, when I say representative, I mean representative of digital brand equity, right? Offline conversations will not obviously be covered here. From our experience, what we have seen is that growth in the online conversations have been exponential. And this allows us to have high correlations with online search, reviews, and social posts, which really tells you about the demand for a product or a trend.
All right. All right. And then we have the next question. It's from Vishwas. How can I learn more about this and see how it plays out for my brand?
So, Vishwas, when you say how it can play out for your brand, I'm guessing you're talking about what kind of time or effort it would take for an implementation. That's kind of how I'm interpreting the question. Typically, it takes us about 8 to 10 weeks to configure brand safe for your brand. The initial few weeks is a discovery exercise. We track all the brands you want us to track based on your category, and that sets up the data collection process, which is a one-time process, and the entire process from the discovery exercise to the setup and getting you on, onto the platform with this functionality takes about 8 to 10 weeks.
All right, and we'll be glad to take in any requests that are coming in. So after the screen, end of the screen, you are going to see a contact us, and I believe an email will be sent out of this session as well. So if you want to know more details about the implementation, we'll be glad to take that on a one-on-one call as well.
Of course.
Right. We have another question coming in. It's anonymous, so I don't know the name. But is the social data and the e-com data sourced from the brand or client, or do you purchase this data from the various sources for the brand in context as well as its relevant competitors? How is this data sourced and to what degree? Right. So I can take that up. So we do have active partnerships across, right? And we also have in-house capabilities to get this data that we are hosting on the platform, and all of the data analytics are actually based on public data. So we're sourcing them from posts which can be from Instagram, from Twitter, on the tweets that are coming in from Twitter, or it could also be the reviews and feedbacks that you actually get from the e-commerce websites, right, on each of those products. So that's how we are sourcing this data that is coming up on the platform. So I hope that addresses the questions. We've just got about 4 minutes on the clock. Any other questions that we can help you address with?
There is a question in the chat about cost, so we'll address that quickly. There are a few key considerations of cost, the number of markets, the brands, the subcategories that you want to cover. Since the platform is developed specific to a country, category, and brand combination, this usually starts at about 25,000 US dollars.
Right. I think Kesava, that was your question. I hope that addresses it. I don't see any other questions that are coming in. All right, I think we are good to go. But yes, in case you have any further more questions that you would have, it's a very simple tool, very easy to use, and it makes your life as a brand manager to actually track your brands and see what competition is doing. So we would love to hear from you on any questions that you may have on the platform. And you will be getting an email in regards to the platform and also details on how you can contact us. We'd be glad to do a one-on-one session with you to show you the platform and also how it works. Right, I think we're good to go. So thank you again, everybody, for taking our time today to just hear about BrandSay and helping us launch this today and be a participant to it as well. And we look forward to hear from you one-on-one as well. Wishing you a good day ahead and take care.
Have a great day. Bye.